Brian is back. This is the Brian White kind of Brian, because sometimes we, of course, have a Brian Wong, and then my son is Brian Kirk, and then we have other Brian. How many Brians were born between when you were born and when my son was born? About 700 million?
Enough that in every class I was in, I was Brian W.
See, and in my channel, Brian W does not differentiate. So it doesn't help at all. The 10-10 countdown. We are approaching 10-10. That's pretty much all that the people on my channel want to hear about right now. They want to know what the stock price is and whether it's going up, and they don't want to know when it's going down. And they do want to know what is going to happen between now and 10-10 with the stock. I'm going to be less interested in what happens to the stock between now and 10-10 and more interested in the thresholds. What are we looking at between now and 10-10 from your viewpoint in terms of what does
I gotcha.
yeah,
I gotcha.
I'll
I
turn
gotcha.
you loose.
So the first thing we're looking for is updates to FSD. Of course, we need it on the Cybertruck, because if it's not on the Cybertruck, we can't realistically move to the next version. We're looking for things like Smart Summon and reverse and all that. Okay, we know all that. What else are we looking for? We're looking for leaks. We're looking for spy shots. We're looking for cryptic statements from people like Joe Tegmeyer. See, Joe Tegmeyer has a very good working relationship with Tesla. You'll notice that he is that Texas is the only site where they still allow direct flyovers.
Oh.
And part of the reason for that, and Joe has said this publicly, and I had him on a roundtable one time at an event that I hosted in Texas. He said sometimes they will call me up and say, "Hey, Tuesday morning, we need you to not fly." And he goes, "Say no more." And you think, well, how dare he? That's how you keep access. You violate when they said, "Please don't shoot the crash test tent." He honored that, because if you don't, you get no more footage.
Right.
So he has been. So I would look for cryptic statements from Joe saying, "Oh, I wasn't able to fly today due to requests," or something like that might indicate that there's vehicles on site. Now, the other sites, boy, we just don't know which site it's going to be. We still don't know where it's going to be held. I ran a poll the other day on X. It was more emotion driven than data driven. I said, is it going to be in LA, where the design studio is? Is it going to be in Fremont, where the FSD lab is? Is it going to be in Texas, where we expect early manufacturing to take place? And everyone said, it's going to be in Texas. I just love Texas. It's like, well, yeah, Texas is great, but come on. I am of the opinion it will also be held in Texas, but I say that without basis. I sure as heck ain't ordering tickets yet. And for that matter, is it going to happen on 10-10, or it's going to be bumped again?
12-12. 12-12 comes to mind.
Well, 10 of 10 is a pretty good rating,
Yes.
especially compared to Texas's flag. I don't know if you've seen the reviews, but 1 star.
Oh, yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So looking for potential spottings of a vehicle that would be substantially different, because I mean, I think you've had, I haven't talked about it much on this channel yet, but you've, I think, done a couple of videos about mirrorless cars showing up in parking lots here and there that might be, and with cameras in odd places. Is that, are these examples that you think might be telling us something?
I do think so. If you look at there's been some Model Ys out with unusual hardware, and the most unusual part, yeah, the mirrors are gone. The fender cams stick out a good 1.5 to 2 inches more than they have in the past. But the biggest change is the B-pillar camera right behind the driver and passenger front seats has been covered over, and there's a different camera like inside the back window.
Wow.
And the reasonable conclusion is that this is the placement for the next gen vehicle's camera. So if you had a 2-seater or even maybe a four-seater that had one large front door on each side,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
that perhaps even opened in an unusual angle or direction, maybe up instead of out, that would make getting in and out very easy, and that camera would be positioned in a good spot right back here, for ease of ease of greatest vision. So that is so yes, we are looking for something that is of a different shape than a 3 or Y.
So then if the cameras on the front bumper are out an inch or so,
Not
what?
on the front bumper, on the
Oh,
front. There is one on the front bumper, but I was talking about the fender cameras being out. But
oh,
yes, there is. We have seen it with a front bumper camera as well.
okay, all
Oh
right.
yeah, so that would tell you how far forward the vehicle
Forward, the
goes.
vehicle might be, yes, yes,
But we
okay.
don't know if that's going to be frunk or passenger space.
Or, of course, you know, my position. My position is it is a frunk,
Luggage?
but it's a very special frunk where you get your potato chips and Diet Pepsi.
Oh yeah, a internal access frunk. Because
Yes,
you don't need a firewall. There's ideally no combustion in your EV.
yes.
And if
Or
your
it
EV
could,
has combustion, it's a hybrid, and that's a gas car.
yeah, right. Okay. So so we'd be looking for more things of that nature, but you're hoping, of course, maybe this would be, we would get some sightings of something, or not you're hoping, but we're all
I am hoping,
contemplating
yeah.
that we might see something where we see physical hardware. I mean, the physical body of an unusual kind. Sounds like a movie. Could we make a movie about this? Oh, anyway, that would be that would be smaller or shaped different or have different kind of doors and all the rest. Of course, uh, if we saw that, then it would start giving it away. But you know, that's how we are. We love these hints.
And the thing is, if you know, this isn't 2019 anymore, they could anything they roll out on stage is going to be met with a whole lot less skepticism than before.
Right.
And so I would not be surprised to see a radical departure, a first principles design. This isn't your baby. This is your tool. And it I don't want the prettiest hammer. I want the most effective hammer. And no one said that a yellow cab was the prettiest car on the road. They said it did the best job.
Right. 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 Okay. So then after 1010, we've got to roll these babies out. Hopefully at some point I mean, the actual cyber cabs are probably not going to be rolled out until mid 2025. Got to keep it right here. Sometimes I'll even slip back into the previous century. Brian, did you know this about me? I'll say 1925. It's because of my age, I think. Not my
Well,
IQ.
you have
Not my
you have fond memories of 1925.
My mother was born in 26 and still kicking around, believe it or not. The regulation issue came up. It popped up on a few X places yesterday. People were speculating and making statements that I think they know nothing about, but then I don't either. I mean, I actually have never done a minute's research. I've just been basing all of my understanding of the regulation issue on kind of, you know, what it feels like and what people have been saying in general. Have you done any in-depth study or anybody that you trust on the matter of regulation? Because my perception would be some places have no regulations at all. Some people like Florida are excited to allow this as soon as possible. And then some places like Los Angeles and San Francisco, who have been long involved in the process, have some pretty significant regulations. Then we get to New York City, where taxis, the taxi costs about $1 million to even be able to put it on the street. So talk to me. What are the regulations? How many regulation problems are we going to have?
So the short answer is it's different everywhere. But there's something like half the states have already either approved it or have laws written in such a way that it's not disallowed. I would point out that those $1 million medallions for taxis are now worth about 150
I heard
thousand.
they had come down. Yes,
They
a lot.
collapsed. They collapsed. Those used to be worth gold, and now they're worth myrrh, I think is the correct precious gift. So they're yeah. But Nevada was one of the first to pioneer it, saying come on in. If it's good enough for you, it's good enough for us.
Hmm.
The real trick is when it does something dumb, who do you give the ticket to?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the biggest concern. So most states have already allowed it in either explicitly or implicitly, and the ones that don't will follow, because if you start losing your population to states that require personal mobility that is not available via public transportation, or just to people who will not use public transportation, it's going to be a big push. And you will have the people who need this most are are voters, are the older people, the more, uh, you know, the people who can afford mobility like this. Yeah. And if your state didn't allow it, you would get on the phone. You would, at the next at the next campaign thing, you would stand up and say, are you going to allow this? This is critical to me and us in our state. So the state of regulation in the US is very favorable. And looking at other places, we know Europe is aggressively working to permit autonomy, and so is China. Between Europe, the US, and China, those are the three biggest car markets. That's something like that's probably over half the vehicles sold in the world are in those three markets.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of countries will just adopt the regulations of other countries
Sure.
because it's so much easier. So that would be, yeah.
Some people are saying that wouldn't we be rolling out FSD complete with no driver, no anybody, no nothing in the tunnels of Vegas before we roll them out on the streets of Las Vegas?
And my answer to that is no. If that was an objective, I'm confident they could assign a team to it who would solve it in a week or two. But they want it to work everywhere. And the problem with creating a branch like that is, then do you update that branch, or does it just become the old branch?
Mhm.
Um, and do you just orphan it for the benefit of a few dozen vehicles? It's a lot of resource for a very limited use case. And as long as the boring company is okay with paying those drivers for now, which it appears they are, then it works. So I would like to see them get it solved now. Um, but I think it'll be a better demo when people go to Vegas and use the boring tunnels and they say, by the way, this is the exact same FSD that's
Mhm.
available for you right now. Go buy go outside this tunnel and buy a used Tesla on a used car lot and enable it. And $100 later or more, you're on your way. And I think that would be a more powerful demo than saying it's kind of like this, except.
Yes.
So
So, Brian, for uh, probably 100+ years, we would at this point in the channel say, well, changing gears, but you can't say that anymore. What are we going to say instead?
putting it in reverse,
Yeah, that's not
well,
good.
I mean, that
Okay,
is a
so
different gear,
we're going to
kind of.
change subjects. Expectation for sales in Europe. So I'm sorry, the US looks like maybe we're flat to a little up. China looks like it's up. The last things I saw on Europe were very flat. How do we get to one more car than last year with those numbers?
Cybertruck.
Cybertruck. Okay.
Cybertruck. Also, Tesla continues expanding into new markets. And Mexico was kind of an afterthought until the last couple years, and now they're getting a lower cost Model 3 model that'll be coming in from China, as all Teslas are, except the S and X. The 3 and Y already come from China, just as they do to Mexico, as they do in Canada. So the good news is that Shanghai factory, man, it is paying for itself. And I would like to remind all those who look at our estimates and think we're crazy that people also said we were crazy when we said that Shanghai was going to be a good deal, that it was going to be very affordable, and that it was going to be very productive, and that no, China wouldn't swoop in and nationalize the factory 3 weeks later, or they're going to steal all the IP. Turns out there's a gulf of understanding between knowing how to build a thing and being able to build a thing. when I was in physics class in Germany in 1992, they showed us, the teacher showed us, here's the mechanics of a nuclear bomb. And a student said, whoa, 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 is this information? He goes, knowing how to build one and being able to build one
Yeah.
are so
Very
different,
different. Yes.
very different. And that's why, and you look at the Chinese competitors, BYD does not use Tesla's tech. They don't use the same batteries. They don't use the same motors. They don't use the same magnetic pattern within the motor. They're completely different cars. And
Mhm.
that's, if anyone is stealing Tesla's tech, they're doing such a bad job of it that they are not showing up on the radar.
All right. So are you currently then believing that we will sell at least one more car in this calendar year than we did last year? And do you have a number yet in kind of not a specific, but kind of a general number? Yeah.
I'm going to say, 2 million is still my target.
Wow.
And,
Okay.
and I think it's going to be plus or minus 2%. I think it's going to be real close on 2 million.
Oh,
I think it's definitely going to beat last year's 1.84.
okay.
And there are there are tailwinds that I think will make that possible. One of them being the Cybertruck, the others being the new markets, and the last one being that I expect rates may correct a bit later in the year.
He
And
might.
all of those are tailwinds.
Okay. All right. Any news that you know of on the Model Y refresh?
No, no, same news as last week. I am confident it is imminent. I believe it will happen around the end of the year, but I think now, because they want to beat last year's numbers, they're going to push it into Q1, even in China. So I
Mhm.
think they're going to spend an extra little bit of time validating, and that in Q1, we'll see it first in China. And we may not see it in the US until Q2,
Oh,
because they do roll it out there first because they are so efficient at these changeovers. And I think that, like the Model 3, they'll go one model at a time. So they'll start with perhaps the long range or the standard range, and then do the performance last. So they can switch over one line at a time, so that this one keeps going full steam while we're waiting for this one to get back up to speed. And that one team can do this line, and then the same team can do this line, and it'll go quicker with lessons learned, which is what we saw with the Model 3. And that, and then the beauty is so many competitors will come out with their Model Y competitor benchmarked on a 2024 Model Y. Wow. I mean, could you imagine if your company just spent years and billions developing a Model 3 competitor,
yeah.
and then the refresh comes out and you're like, oh, it's the same price and it's way more car.
Indeed, indeed. So you would be wise to, of course, do all the things that we always talk about on this channel in terms of, buying Tesla stock. Oh, that's not investment advice, it's just advice. But the main thing I'm going to suggest is you be wise to follow Brian and his exploits. He is going to be almost like that. What was it? Find Oswald? No, what was that thing called?
Where's Waldo?
Where's Waldo? That was it. We're going to be
Or where's
puzzles.
Wally for our European viewers?
Yeah. Are you going to have a puzzle and stuff like that? Because you're like all over the place, Vancouver, Seattle.
I'm more like Carmen San Diego.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I would also say, as a little bonus, overtime bonus for those who stayed through that, through the Brian promo. Uh, I was asked recently, what is my exit strategy on Tesla stock? What will make me sell it? And to sell any part of it, well, if I hit retirement age, of course, then it's, I can sell it and actually take cash out. But to sell any portion of it, for me, what I would be looking at is, when is it exiting its growth phase? Because right now they're still loading the spring. All these big investments that they're doing, instead of, for example, paying dividends, are things that will pay off with even greater dividends in the future. So my exit strategy would be, when it's a blue chip, I'll rethink it. Although a lot of people sold out of Microsoft when it ended its real growth phase, and it has 10x since then. A lot of people sold Apple when Steve Jobs died, It's done okay since then, despite what I would consider a substantial lack of vision.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, or, I mean, and to such a degree, I'd call it Vision Pro. Uh, and then, but if I could see another investment with this kind of upside, I would consider selling some to buy that. If you're out there watching this, I would ask you to follow a bunch of companies to the degree that you follow this one and see if any of them have that kind of upside. And the reason I didn't invest in BYD or CATL at the time when I knew that they were going to be winners was because I do not have confidence in the Chinese stock exchange.
Ah,
And
yes.
these tracker stocks you can buy on the US market are not the stock.
Yeah.
They've done well for many people, but I personally don't know enough about them to understand and have confidence.
I have an exit strategy for Tesla stock also. Mine is, depending on how you look at it, good news, bad news. I'm expecting that my children will inherit my stock. So that's the likely time when I'll sell. Now, there could be, you never know what happens in between now and then. I might want to take, a year of traveling around the world or something and take a bit out later because, then I'd only probably have to sell, 5 or 6 shares to take a trip around the world. So that who knows what might happen when it really goes nuts.
If you look at the 5 or 6 shares that you would have bought in 2019,
Yes, yes.
those would absolutely buy you a trip today.
Yeah, there you go. All
Yeah.
right, Brian, as always, thank you so much for coming on board. Sometimes I'm going to steal your joke.
All
Every
right.
once in a while, he has really good guests on his channel. So you should watch his channel. You should watch his channel and follow him around and follow where he's going. And he's got all kinds of places he's going, which gives him that special stuff, that special knowledge, that on the street stuff that I can't bring you as much as I did that traveling when I was young and fresh like you.
That's such a compliment. I don't know how to take it because I feel neither young nor fresh.
Compared to the grandpa here. All right. It's been great talking to you.